My name's Paul Jones. I'm Conservation Manager here at Aerospace Bristol. The aircraft I'm stood in front of here is Bolingbroke 9048. This aircraft served during the Second World War in Alaska, submarine hunting and the like. The aircraft, Bolingbroke aircraft, were at the end of the Second World War, after being used as trainers, which explains the yellow paint, because normally they would have been a type of camouflage. They were used as trainers at the end of the war for a few years, and then they were basically all sold to anybody who was interested in buying them. And enterprising farmers in Canada decided that these aircraft had lots of good components. So the fuel tanks, of which there were 4, were aluminium, and the farmers were using those for dispensing insecticide, fertilizer and the like. So they basically cut the fuel tanks out of the wings. They also cut out any useful hydraulic components that might have been in there to use on their tractors and their various bits of equipment. So the aircraft were then just basically left out on the prairies or airfields. And this particular aircraft was located in 2006 at Chino Airfield near Los Angeles. And so it was brought back to the UK for restoration. And it was in a really poor condition. And the reason it was left to stand in the middle of the prairies rather than being cut up for scrap is that it would have been so expensive to travel the long distances in Canada to move it around that it was just not economically viable. So from that perspective, we're really lucky to have these aircraft in any condition at all. So this aircraft, like I say, has been worked by volunteers here at Aerospace Bristol since 2006. And in various places. So this cockpit, for example, spent some time under a carport at someone's house and was worked on there. Now, just under 2 years ago, this space in this, what is effectively a shed, became available. And so we were able to start working with a lot more effort. And so we have up to 20 volunteers that are working on this aircraft at the moment. And so if I take you around the aircraft, so recently, and for the first time for probably 70 years, we actually attached the cockpit, this element, to the central wing box, after rebuilding the central wing box, which again was in really poor condition. And by attaching these two parts together, it then allows us to start fitting items like the leading edge. So this leading edge of the wing is the only one we have, and if you have a look at some of the areas on, you'll see that it's got all sorts of splits and cracks. The ribs that hold the shape of the leading edge we only had half of rib. So if you look down, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see because it's probably too dark. We've remade some ribs. We will then repair the rest of the leading edge. Then we're going to have to copy this one and make one for the other side, because we don't actually have the other side of this leading edge. But at least we've got one original that we can make it as representative of the originals as possible. As we walk round the wing, we've had to replace the top skins, which you can see are newly primed, as well as the bottom skins. And we've even got to a point now where we've actually fitted the flaps to the back of the wing, and you can see that they actually operate. These would have been, there's quite a simple mechanism for these flaps, and they would have been operated by a series of cables and pulleys, and then a control rod along the wing to operate the flaps. Very simple, but reliable. And if you come through here, what we've also been able to do, as a result of being able to put the wing to the cockpit, the centre into the cockpit, is we've actually managed to fit this keel. Now this keel beam, and you can see that there's a side piece here. This is the bomb bay. When this is finally put together, you'll be able to see from the cockpit, this would have been where the basically the flares and the bombs and anything else that they felt they were going to drop during the war would be. Depth charges, because they also did some submarine hunting. So moving along here, you'll see that on this bench you've actually got some of the original bomb doors. And these bomb doors, they basically are a wooden lattice work frame with a very thin skin spread over the top. And so it's wood screws, and if you look at the end piece, you'll see that it's basically a wooden frame that's shaped. So because of the age of this aeroplane, and because it had been left out in all weathers, the wooden frame had rotted, and so these had started to flatten out, and so we'd lost the actual profile. So we've had to remake the frames and then reaffix the skins on the top. But as you can see, they're coming up pretty good shape. You can still see the evidence of the paint that they were painted as trainers. But underneath that paint, there is camouflage paint still. And actually on the tail fuselage section, we can still see the aircraft registration number quite clearly under the training paint, which is great. So if we move to this is the tailplane of the aircraft now. Now, again, really poor condition. And this section here, this wingtip on the tailplane, is actually brand new. We had one on the left-hand side, on the port side, but because the port and starboard were identical, we were able to copy it down to the last measurement and make a carbon copy. You can see it's got a wooden leading edge, and when this is being finally finished, on the leading edge there is a canvas cover goes on here, and a dope is applied which makes the cover actually stick, but gives you a nice clean leading edge, and also protects the wood from the elements as well. The elevators, which are these here, and just to give you an idea of why we're trying to move to a different shed, you'll see that there's a massive puddle here on the floor, and we've had to cover this with polythene. It's because the roof in this building leaks like a sieve when it rains. And it's a very old building and not really intended for this. I think it used to be used for storing airfield equipment. So this elevator on here, again, we've had to rebuild. So the only elements we had on this, so we had this skin here, that's new, and we had the tubes, the torque tubes, and we had one or two very mangled ribs. And on this aeroplane, this is one of the early, very early all-metal aeroplanes. So instead of this being a wooden frame, which it would have been on earlier aircraft, it's actually made of aluminium. And so with copying what we had on the left and making ribs for the right and vice versa, and we got a few basic drawings, and then some common sense, we've managed to remake the elevator frame. This will eventually also be covered with canvas and then doped so you have a nice stiff hard skin.